Yesterday, the Pentagon held a briefing for lawmakers about the intelligence that they supposedly had that justified the killing of Qassem Soleimani last Thursday night. Now, we're not gonna go over all the details of it. I'm sure you're familiar to some extent with some of the criticisms from Republican senators Rand Paul and Mike Lee, with Rand Paul saying that the briefing itself was an insult to the Constitution, and Mike Lee saying it's the worst briefing he's ever been in. Which is interesting because Donald Trump responded to a question about Mike Lee's comment by saying, I had calls from numerous senators and numerous congressmen and women saying it was the greatest presentation they ever had. That didn't happen. Nope. Nobody said, I just wanted to let you know, I've seen a lot of PowerPoints. That one, the best. Nobody said that. But anyway, apparently, like judging by the reaction of people come out of the room, nobody really changed their mind. The people who felt like there was no actual intelligence showing that he was an imminent threat came out believing that none was presented. Those who believed that it was awesome to kill him, they didn't go in needing any evidence, and so they left with everything that they needed. But one scary thing that apparently happened in that meeting that I hadn't previously seen discussed yesterday came out in an interview with Mike Lee from NPR's Rachel Martin. She asked him, what kind of hypotheticals were you putting to them in hopes of understanding when the administration sees a need for congressional authority? Mike Lee responded, as I recall, one of my colleagues asked a hypothetical involving the supreme leader of Iran. If at that point, the United States government decided that it wanted to undertake a strike against him personally, recognizing that he would be a threat to the United States, would that require authorization for the use of military force? The fact that there was nothing but a refusal to answer that question was perhaps the most deeply upsetting thing to me in that meeting. And so understand what he's saying there. They did these hypotheticals, like at what point will the White House acknowledge that it is supposed to be Congress that is authorizing war? And so taking an action that is tantamount to declaring war on a nation should require congressional involvement, or at the very least, like knowledge, the fact that they knew that it would happen. They didn't get that with Soleimani, but now even taking out the #1 man in the Iranian government, the most powerful individual in the Iranian government, they would not confirm that they would actually let Congress know about it. And so effectively, all of that stuff in the Constitution about the legislative branch being the one that is responsible for declaring war, raising armies, all of that stuff, the White House is declaring not just to the Democrats, but to the Republicans as well. Remember, Mike Lee is a Republican, a hard right Republican. They're saying, no, we're done with that. We're not doing that anymore. And Mike Lee is getting a little bit of a taste of what Justin Amash got last year. Any Republican who dares to question Donald Trump, even just to point out, hey, the Constitution is pretty unambiguous on this, is going to be attacked in the most vicious fashion ever. So Justin Amash was literally run out of the party. Take a look at what Lou Dobbs had to say about Mike Lee last night.
Senator Mike Lee having something of a snit fit today. He came out in support of Tim Kaine, that's right, the former Democratic candidate for vice president, to limit President Trump's military authority. Senator Lee's Benedict Arnold impression and his announcement follows a classified military briefing on Iran that Lee called the worst he's ever seen.
So Mike Lee, because he said, hey, by the way, Constitution's clear, you're supposed to let us know about this stuff. He's Benedict Arnold. He's a traitor to the country for just like Mike Lee. He's not voting to remove Trump from office or anything. He's not bolting to the Democratic Party. He's just saying, hey, like we have a separation of powers. We just do. And by the way, Republicans, we still control the Senate. Like you can talk to us. We still have your back. We're not going to say no. Just let us know what's going on. For that, he is a traitor to the country. But if you've been watching this like fervor for more conflict with Iran over the past week, you know that anyone that speaks up against what's being done is going to be tarred as some sort of traitor. Another person who was involved in the briefing was Representative Pramila Jayapal. She said President Trump recklessly assassinated Qassem Soleimani. He had no evidence of an imminent threat or attack. So she said nothing was actually presented, no raw intelligence, no clear indication that they had any reason to believe that Soleimani was about to do something in regards to US forces or civilians. And for what she said, Representative John Rutherford said, I was in the same briefing as you, Representative Jayapal, and this is absolutely false. You and your squad of Ayatollah sympathizers are spreading propaganda that divides our nation and strengthens our enemies. So she said, look, I went there was no evidence. So she's an Ayatollah sympathizer. That is like one hair away from saying that she's a terrorist lover. And others in the Democratic Party have already been smeared in that way over the past week or so. And so you got, like this is how little room there is for any dissension when it comes to these rumblings of wanting war with Iran. Like all the way like to the left on Pramila Jayapal, Ayatollah sympathizer if you have a problem with this. Mike Lee, one of the most conservative Republicans, Benedict Arnold. That's what we're seeing right now. And so again, all they're saying is you have to consult with us. Like think about it honestly, in practice, how many of these both Republicans and Democrats would go along with some sort of like extended conflict with Iran? We saw it in the run up to war with Iraq. They got cowed by the media and by the president attacking them. Many would in this case. But just for wanting to be involved in it, like brought into the loop a little bit, they're being attacked in ridiculous terms. Now I know we don't go to Sarah Huckabee Sanders for anything approaching truth or grasp on reality, but take a look at what, I'm not gonna like actually make you listen to her voice, but she was on Fox and Friends this morning and said she can't think of anything dumber than allowing Congress to authorize war. But like, she's not insulting like Pramila Jayapal there. She's not insulting Mike Lee. She's insulting the people who wrote the Constitution because as I've been saying this entire thing, it is unambiguous. The Congress shall have power to declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures on land and water. Keep reading, there's really interesting stuff about raising navies and armies and all of that stuff. Yes, Trump as president will be the commander in chief, like the main manager of the military, but he is not fundamentally in charge of deciding who America goes to war with. That is supposed to be the legislature. That has not been the case for a very, very long time, if it ever was actually the case. But even up to 50 years ago when I think in 1973, they passed the War Powers Act, the legislature was saying, hey, maybe we should look into actually abiding by what the Constitution says. And even with that done, we've had more than my entire lifetime of the executive branch effectively having 100% control over launching us to war. Even in this case, if they wanted to take out the supreme leader of Iran, Trump believes that he has unilateral authority to do that without needing to consult with anyone except perhaps whoever's in the dining room at Mar-a-Lago at the time. And so right now, you should know there are efforts both in the Senate and the House. Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna, they have a bill that's going to try to reapply the War Powers Act. Sounds like Tim Kaine is working on something too. There are efforts to do this, but we know from the experience of our lifetime and beyond that the White House is more resistant in this area than perhaps in any other limitation in its powers. And what you're seeing are former administration officials, conservative pundits, all of them rallying to make sure that the president has sole 100% unilateral authority over what happens with US foreign policy and the use of force abroad. That is not a safe place to be in for me, for you, for our entire country. And it's not just because it's Donald Trump. It wouldn't be safe with anyone. But honestly, with someone as immature, incurious, ignorant about world affairs and world history as Donald Trump, do you really want him being the only one deciding when we go to war? Thank you for watching this clip from the Damage Report. For more content from the show and access to TYT Network members-only exclusives, go to tyt.com/Brooke. Wait, no, it's tyt.com/John. Go to tyt.com/John to sign up.